Hello, welcome to an exciting episode of Pete First Anxiety. My guest today is the author of Cultivating Freedom, the one, the only, CFMicky. CF, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Listen, why don't you tell everybody a little more about yourself, and then we'll get into the book itself.
Okay, I am a grandmother, farmer, worked in a nursing home for several years, and I am a mother of 3 children. And I live on a farm, and my son is managing and looking after the farm now. And now they have expanded to chickens and turkeys. So yeah, I guess I babysit chickens and turkeys in the summer.
She writes books by night. She watches chicken and turkeys by days, guys. That's awesome, though. So, CF, what led you to the book, though? Like, what is this book about? Give us a little taste, and then we'll get really deep into it.
Well, I had a very troublesome marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Always searching for answers, trying to figure out what was going on with my husband. And one thing led to the next. And finally, in our 28th year of marriage, is when he first admitted that he had depression. That's our journey through the medical field. And, with the help of medical staff, I got a name for what he has. But bear in mind, there's been no formal diagnosis, as they have to admit that they have a problem before they'll go in. And he doesn't have a problem. So I started seeing counselors, and that's kind of led to my journey here.
Yeah. So, what would they say his condition is?
Can you repeat that?
What was his condition, though? What they say, what they think it is?
Narcissistic personality disorder.
So what CF is telling you is basically a narcissist isn't going to admit that they have a problem. So that's why she says that they have to admit that they want to get help, because that's the whole point of that, is that it's hard for them. They're not going to admit they're wrong. They don't ever want to admit they're wrong, and CF could tell you she went through this kind of thing with them. So, what was it like on a day-to-day basis? Give people a little feel for people that may not know what a narcissist is, because a lot of people like to throw that term around. They have no idea what it is. So why don't you tell them what it's like?
Well, in my personal opinion, I believe a narcissist, you have to have core traits that you're dealing with on a consistent basis when you're dealing with them. And it's the grandiose, it's the entitlement, it's the validation, envy of others, low capacity for social behaviors, like they have trouble communicating, I guess. And the basis of all of this is they're very insecure people.
Yeah.
And on a daily basis, dealing with it. The paranoia was huge in this
God,
household.
I bet it had to be hard, though. You couldn't go any places because he'd automatically think something else wrong of it. Yeah.
Yeah, there were many times, for example, I'm taking the kids to practice for the Christmas concert, and it's a potluck, which everybody brings a dish. And
Yeah.
on the Sunday, we're getting ready for it, and he looks at me, he says, "You're not going."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "No, you're not going." He said, "You're not using my gas to drive the kids up to the Christmas concert." And I looked at him and I said, "No, I'm using my half of the gas." And I said, "You're not coming." And I left him at home, loaded the kids up. We had a wonderful evening.
Yeah, so to comment about the thing with the gasoline, it's another thing narcissists do. They have to control the situation. So what he was trying to do is control you, basically, in that
Yeah.
sense. Some other things too that you would probably notice is difficulty with criticism, sense of entitlement, exploitative behavior. Sorry, I'm reading that. I was struggling. Lack of empathy as well, which I can tell you from my own experience. My ex-wife now was like that. She had sometimes she'd be very affectionate, other times she wouldn't. She had lack of empathy for you, wouldn't, didn't really care, cold, dismissive, cold, self-focused responses, things like that. All these are kind of things that you've probably dealt with and seen as you go along the way. So,
Well, and and a person doesn't really realize how dysfunctional your marriage is until you're out. And it's the whole coercive control thing that is happening to you, and you don't even know that it's happening.
exactly.
Like it's, and then when you're in that environment, you start self-guessing yourself, you start doubting, and then you start relying on them more for their input,
Hmm.
and you're deeper into the relationship.
You can call it. You can say what it is. You're deeper in the shit than you realize you are. I know. Trust me. I understand completely because I've been there. I know what it's like. I could tell you it's the gaslighting as well. Then it leads to that questioning because they're trying to make you think like you're second guessing everything you do. And that's how they control you though. That's how they get you. They get you to start. And then when you're relying on him, that's really what he wanted. He was excited when you started relying on him. You made his day. You just made him feel like he was the center of your world. That's it. Nothing else mattered, kind of thing. And that's what happens with narcissists. Like, from my personal experience, the gaslighting was really heavy. Like she would tell me, I know these people, and I don't. And I'm like, no, I don't, because she was cheating eventually that we found out. But when I realized that the person that was I realized that this person was who it was, and I knew it because I was like, you know what? Something doesn't seem right about this person, and I knew it. And when I started asking questions, it was, oh, no, you met this person before. No, you've met him. You know who that is. And kept convincing me that I knew this person that she was talking to, that she's really cheating on me with, was going, well, you know him, and that's how they get you, though. They get you to start thinking that, oh, no, you're crazy. Well, see, if you don't know what you're talking about, no. Are they trying to control you? Well, you're not using my gas. That's my gas, and see, it's like, hell no, that's my gas. Back up, chief. Whoa. So, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy, though, because you're like, people that realize that what they're in, they're like, whoa, hold up. Because we've done this topic before early on in the show. I had another guest. She hosts another podcast called You Have the Power. Me and her were talking about her relationship, her narcissistic ex, and we were talking about mine. People said when they listened to the episode, they had to pause it because we were hitting so home. So I'm hoping for the same thing for this conversation, for this part of it, for people like, whoa, hold on, man. Start doing it like self-check. Wait a minute, am I in this situation too? Because they may not realize it. Like you said, they don't realize they're in this thing, and then when you do, then it's like, how do you get out? It's hard. Once they grab those fangs in, baby, they're not giving out. They got you. And I almost feel like you get into like a hypnosis type state, like, like Jafar from Aladdin has had the serpent staff that kept the sultan kind of under control. He didn't realize what was going on because he couldn't tell. Everything else looked normal to him, but he was under control of that. It's basically similar to what it is.
Oh, most definitely. And, when they treat you differently in public than what they do at home, they are very well aware of what they're doing.
Yeah, those are
they
covert
just feel that they're
narcissists.
entitled.
Yep. CF is talking about a covert narcissist, 100%.
And, and the way I looked at it is, the more I learned, it was such a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
That he didn't love me. He looked at our marriage as a contractual marriage. I was there to serve him. There was no two-way street. I was there to serve him at his needs when he wanted, do what he wanted. And as we had the farm business, I was more isolated. I wasn't living in town. So we're 30 miles away from town, and that adds another layer of isolation on top of it all.
And that's what he wanted. He wanted to isolate you from everybody so he has more control over you and everything else. You're hitting all the points, Yep. I love it. You're hitting all these points that just are great. Listen, you're doing great. You love it. Absolutely love it. I love it that, you're hitting home with all these points because it's true. That's what they do to you, and then they try and fracture your relationships with other people because that's how they gain their control even more. They don't people don't want to be around you because they don't want to be around that individual. That's what happened with my baby mama. She was like, she caused all these troubles. And then it's like everybody didn't like her, so nobody wanted to be around you. So they stopped inviting you to come do things because they're like, oh, shit, here comes so-and-so. We got to deal with her, Like, we don't want to deal with that person. Hell no. And then when you get out, then it's like everybody's like, well, I didn't like him. Well, thanks for telling me now, guys. I appreciate it. You could have told me sooner. And it was like that, too, in my current divorce I'm going through now. Well, yeah. It's like then all the comments come out. It's like, well, hey, thanks. Thanks for leaving me hanging there. I appreciate it. So how did you get out of it, though? What was that defining moment? You're like, you know what? I'm just done with this guy. I've had enough. I'm out.
Well, I'll tell you, kind of partway through, we ended up at the, probably halfway through my marriage there, we ended up at a marriage counselor. And
This has to be interesting.
Yeah, I was really struggling. I felt that some of the things that him and his mom were doing, that like I'm in a business with my husband and all of a sudden they're doing deals behind closed doors and I'm not included.
Yeah.
And yet I'm the one out there in the field running the combine or driving the truck or moving the augers or, getting the grain. And I felt so betrayed. And we ended up at the marriage counselors. But that whole year, I really struggled because what do? I've got 3 kids. I'm in a farm business with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what he's like. Like his anger and his rages are off the chart.
Yeah.
So Do I leave and put up with this until my kids are old enough, knowing that he'll probably get them 50% of the time? And then how screwed up are my kids going to be?
Yeah.
Or do I stay in a relationship and try and make the best of it until they're old enough to get on their own? And I chose the latter. And by choosing the latter, I sacrificed myself because it does a lot of mental damage when you're getting consistently abused like that. And I was in my own bedroom for over 2 years. I waited till he left the house, then I would get up and I would do my work around the house. And, if I made dinner and he came in for dinner and didn't like it, he shoved it all aside and made his own and made the big mess and then walked out the door. Like he was doing everything in his power to get me to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew he had a mental issue. And finally, it got to the point that the year that he admitted he had depression, that's only part of it. They can
Yeah.
only treat depression. They can't treat the personality disorder unless they agree to help.
Yeah.
So I knew once I had a name for it, I learned all I could. I tried doing what I could to help him. I wanted our marriage to work, but he didn't want me. He was done with me. He got what he wanted. And now he would say, Katie, I want you to leave. Just leave. Think of it as an adventure. He
Yeah.
wanted me to walk away from everything.
Yeah.
And I guess I was pretty much done when he was playing games and threatened to shoot our son and put him 10 feet under. Where he
Wow.
belonged were his words.
Wow.
And I confronted him on that. And he was laughing. He was belittling his behavior. Katie, you don't think I'd do that, do you? And I said, look it. I said, the words came out of your mouth. I said, so what's going through your head? And at that time, we went to another marriage counselor. Second session in, she pulled me into another room and she said to me, you seem to understand your husband's mental condition. And I said, yes, I do. And she said, you better figure it out for yourself. She said, because it gets worse with age. And so she said, you better figure things out. So at that point, because she had directly asked him a question, how did you do? And he sat there and he stonewalled her. He did this. She asked him the question 3 times and he sat back, arms crossed, very relaxed. And she said, am I right to assume you brought your wife in here to change and you don't have to? Yeah, I guess so. Bingo.
All right.
I know that was my clutch. We got out of that meeting. We went to an office store. I went down and bought a journal and I started journaling in it every night. Every time the police were called, the names of the cops, the times, the dates, I was charting everything because I was getting my Bible ready to leave.
Yeah. Definitely. And it had to be feeling powerful too, that you got this thing. You're like, okay, get ready. And then when it happened, you were like, well, here you go. Here's all the notes for you. I have everything documented. And I guarantee the look on his face was just ghost white. I never did these things. You can deny it all you want. It's all right here. Here's the names. Here's the dates. Here's the officers. Here's everybody included. You went into so much detail that there's nothing he could have said at that point. It wouldn't have mattered. And he still probably would have fought it. He'd be like, oh, well, I never did these things. You're wrong. Okay, well, it's all here. Here's so-and-so at this time, this date. You know what I mean? You just start laying it out for them. Let's talk about the book. So what's the book about, basically? You want to give everybody a summary? Let everybody give us a little taste, so they have to come by it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Cultivating freedom. As I'm going through this journey, trying to manage my leaving and everything, I was going to a counselor once a month. And she said, when you're divorcing a narcissist, she said, you come into my office, unload all the bricks and go out for another round, because that's exactly what it is. She said the healing doesn't start until they're done. They're out of your life. And so that's what I was doing. And then as I'm doing this process, she said, are you journaling? Well, I did a couple of times after some court processes and I did get relief, where I felt frustrated. And so then I started journaling. All of a sudden, 3 weeks later, I've got this hammered out. And so then I joined a writing group on how to write a book. I ended up having to go back right into my childhood because I kept coming back to the question, why did I allow this to happen to me?
Yeah.
Like, I am a strong person, and yet look what he did to me. And I allowed it. I put up with it. And so I went back into my childhood to understand where my boundaries were dropped and why they were dropped. And that's how I entered into my married life. This book, I wrote it. It's a memoir but I didn't want it a whiny complaint. I wanted an educational book. So in there is red flags.
Yeah.
These are some of the examples going on. This is what coercive control means. This is what gray rocking means. So if you're ever wondering if you're in a narcissistic relationship or trying to get through one or divorces, there's tips in here on questions to ask a therapist, a lawyer. When you're interviewing them, you don't go into the first one. You interview and you find somebody that works for you.
I want y'all to listen to what she just said there. That is exactly what you need to do. I tell people the same thing. If you're going to do therapy, make sure this person fits what you want. Do exactly what CF just said there. She said to sit there and interview them because you want to make sure this person is going to benefit you. And at any point in that session, or during those sessions, you feel like it's not working, go to someone else. They're not going to care. It's not their job to really worry about it. They understand how this game works. It's a game. It don't work for them. Don't work for you. Their feelings are not hurt. And I know a lot of people say that they're like, well, I didn't want to hurt their feelings. They don't mind because they know that that's what this profession comes with. If you don't work for you, do just exactly what she just said right there. Like, you couldn't say that any louder for people. Like, I mean, that's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, no, and I did have some tough luck with some lawyers. My first lawyer, once he got me back on the farm, he came to visit me and he said, Katie, I can't represent you anymore. And my mouth just dropped. And he was offered a job at the firm that was defending my husband.
This story just gets more interesting by the minute, I swear.
I'm a bit frustrated over that, but I had 1 month to find a new lawyer. Yeah. And he gave me some names. And so then I started interviewing different lawyers. And there was one that I felt was the best out of the pack. But yet down the road, I'm finding out that he coffees with the other firm. And I'm not feeling very comfortable about that.
I wouldn't either.
So we're 2 months away from trial and we're getting ready for discovery. And I go into his office and he collapsed. I got a call 3 weeks later. Katie, you need to find another lawyer now. And I'm like, can we wait till you get better? Well, I don't think I'll be practicing law. I have no idea. So then the next day he phones me and he said, Katie, I have to withdraw. He said, you're a month away from court and none of this discovery or anything is done. I have to give the other side your phone number. So this is on a Tuesday. Wednesday morning at 8:00, somebody drove 2.5 hours and served me papers at the farm, demanding me be in my husband's law firm at a certain date and a certain time. And then his lawyer's trying to phone me on the phone. Thank God for call display because I ain't picking up that phone call. And I ended up finding another lawyer and it didn't take her long. And she's asking me questions. She said, you tell me everything about him. Yeah. She says, because there is something wrong.
Yeah, and you had that whole journal, though, too, with everything in it. So wait till you gave her that. That was just a mother load of everything. Here you go. Look, you ready? You got 20 minutes and a shot of whiskey is what I tell people all the time. You want to hear a story? You got 20 minutes and a shot of whiskey. Here you go. Take a look at this thing, And that had to be great, though, because all the information's there for her, all these things here, because she can go back and reference these. Anytime the cops come, it's documented. They'll tell you they've come there for that reason. Yeah, we had to come, you know what I mean? And it's like, it was great that you did that, though, but Jesus, that was a crazy thing. I was like, one gone, another one's gone. I'm like sitting there going, damn, what is going on here? Like, is she going to find a lawyer or not? Like, like that's just insane.
Honestly, and that's where the counselor comes in because they give you a lot of skills. And they train you because before any pre-trial, I was worried that I was going to break down and cry. Yeah. I didn't want to look weak. So she was giving me tools on how to manage that. And in the long run, I had to mentally train my brain to control my emotions. Yeah. And that's where it really falls into place for the gray rocking because that's how I survived the last few years of my marriage was gray rocking.
Yeah. So, CF, do you want to explain to people what gray rocking is for anybody who may not know what that term means?
Well, gray rocking is when they're coming at you, baiting you, working you, wanting a reaction out of you. They want your supply. And if you stand there and you don't show any expression, no emotion, and no comment, and then you walk away. And then they're not getting their narcissistic supply from you. Yeah. You're not feeding into this whole chaos. And that tool is very beneficial when it comes to dealing, for example, discovery
Mhm.
or a binding trial. When we're sitting there, and after the binding trial, one of my lawyers said to the other, "Do you think his lawyer was baiting her?" And that's exactly what he was doing. And he never got nothing from me. He never got no expression. He got nothing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is a very important tool to know how to do.
Especially when dealing with narcissists, you can do it via text message as well. Give them very little, like one-word answers, drive them crazy too. Like my ex, she'd always try and bait me in these long debates, and I just give her 1 or 2 word answers. And I wouldn't say anything, and then she'd keep blaming and saying, "Oh no, someone else is having this conversation. You're not." I'm like, I just became aware of it when I was doing this show. I've learned different things as I go. I'm learning new things as these people come talk to me, and then I start realizing to start apply it to my own life. Then when dealing with her, it was like, okay, well, I'm just going to try something. Start giving like one word answers to things. Like, don't really respond to anything and don't really feed into what she's saying, and it drove her nuts. She's just, oh, just monster paragraphs text. Okay, sounds good. And that's all I would say. And you just watch them start going nuts because they're like, they can't get you to crack, And it's funny to watch because it's like, now I know what was going on. I was realizing it. And in my head, I'm watching it and going, oh, yeah, watch. She's going to send back a whole text. Here it comes. Boom. Big, massive text drop. And you're just like, I'm like, yeah, I'm not even reading that. And like, I've had other people try and bait me too like that. And I literally told one person to upset him. I go, so I'm just going to be honest with you. I didn't even read anything you just said. But you have a great day. And they got so mad. Oh, the text just kept flying in. I was like, okay, that's awesome. Cool. They said, hey, by the way, I didn't read that either. So, but you have a great day. And just kept telling them the same thing. And it kept driving them crazy, because it's like now you're smarter to know what to look out for. And when you start
Yeah.
seeing people, and it's applied to anything, really think about it. A lot of people trying to bait you. Someone tried to tell me that I was trying to steal their thunder in this scenario, and then I was like, let's see, I have a podcast. I'm on every social media platform possible, now not to be egotistical, but it's just like, how am I trying to steal your thunder when you're in one spot only and I'm everywhere to be found? I'm hurting in more countries than most people are hurting on a daily basis. Like all the way out to Australia, I'm hurt over there. You know what I mean? It's like, where in there am I stealing your thunder? Like I'm really analyzing this. Like I'm not going to play into this, and then like I always say, it's like, it feels like high school again. You know how like you always had those social groups, everybody's trying to make you feel bad about whatever No, sorry, don't think so. Not happening. I'm not going to play into this game. So I love it, though. I love the book. I love the concept of the book. So have you been in great responses to it? People telling you like some of their own stories and things?
Oh, yeah. And a lot of people are saying that this is long overdue.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
That it was long overdue and more of an education, because you'll get some comments or, well, he's not like that with me. And then all of a sudden they read the book and then all of a sudden it's like reality. Well, yeah, they are. You just didn't know what was happening to you.
Exactly. You were in the same situation we were in. You didn't realize it until someone told you or someone brought it to your light, to your eyes, as that you see. Because in my situation, my buddy Lewis and I have known each other forever. We met each other playing a video game online. Is how me and him randomly came across each other. But then I didn't realize how much impact he would have, and he was the one that pointed out to me everything that was going on. It's like, hey, dude, you need to wake up and see what's going on here because you were clearly drinking the Kool-Aid, man. You need to look and see, and Lewis in his own fashion, he was just straight, blunt to the point. He's like, bro, you're dumb or you're just not seeing this, and I was like, wait a minute, hold up, son, and I got upset, but at the same time, I started thinking about what he was saying, and then we would go through everything and analyze it, and he'd just tell me the thing he's looking at. Okay, so this is what I'm saying, man. He's like, listen, and then he pointed out, he gets you upset till you're paying attention. He's like, hey, listen, now, are you ready to listen? Good, because I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm looking at, and he'll start listing everything off, and then you got to like swallow that pill, and you're like, oh, shit, it is happening. And I'm having the same thing like lately until we met. I'm doing some self-reflecting over the last few months, from the time I pitched you to come on the show to the time that you're here now. I've done a lot of self-reflecting and it's rough, man. Same there. You have to look back and see what part of things you had your own faults in. Like, and I've accepted my own faults in a lot of things. And it's similar, you have to accept these things. It's a hard pill to swallow that you allowed these things to happen. But at the same time, what part did you play in some of this too? Like you can't always blame everybody for your own problems. And that was my biggest thing, was that I had this thing where I would deny ever having did anything wrong, and it's hard, and it applies to the same situation. But I love what the book is. You're getting the response you're getting in the book. Obviously, you're getting those people who are going to say, well, she didn't know what she's talking about. Okay, cool. Then you didn't read the book. That's what that says to me. Your comments, if anything, if you go through a lot of these products where people review things, read through the reviews and tell me that some of these don't make sense to you. Like, especially with like, what is it? I used what is that? I can't Yelp. Yelp was the one I used for a long time. I was a big foodie guy, so I was doing on there doing reviews. And I go look at these restaurants, okay? So when you're looking through them, you look at the comments and just read them. And anybody with common sense could tell you when you're reading something, you're like, that's really what you're mad about? Like what they're mad about just doesn't make any sense. Like you're mad about like, oh, you had to wait longer, but the food was still good. It's like, okay, so you had to wait longer, but it's still good. Like I don't understand what you're mad about then. Yes, the time, but the fact that these people made sure your stuff was, like it was to your satisfaction. You were satisfied. You liked what you got your money's worth. You took time to write a negative review to be mad about it taking a little much time. I'm like, so I'm sure the comments you've gotten were just something funny to read. I'm sure.
You know, when
CF's
I
over there
was
dying. She's had a glass in one hand, just reading something. It's like, oh God, let me go through the highway with it for you. And just starts laughing at some of these comments that are being made.
I can remember being in at the doctor's office discussing everything, and he said, "Oh, he's an NPD, narcissistic personality disorder," and I really didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
And as I'm waiting in the parking lot to go see the counselor that afternoon, I Googled it. And I can remember just breaking down and crying because it wasn't one or 2 points, like it was the whole flippin' gamut. And then I can remember thinking, God, there's actually a name for this? Like, he's not just being a.
Yeah. Yeah. You can say it here. You're fine. This is a safe space. We are here. We can say whatever we like in these walls. We've had people talk. I've had a guy in this show, CF, it makes you feel any better. I had a guy talk about he was going to kill himself this morning and described it in great detail for us. But we were live during that episode. So that's why I went to a close, personal, intimate setting for if one of those conversations would come up, because people can't handle those kind of conversations. And, and as you're reading these things, you're realizing this is what your situation is. I could feel that emotion. Like, it's hard, man, because like, you're like, well, wow, now it makes sense because now it's got a name for what it is. And it's like, oh my God, now I know what I'm dealing with. Now you know how to better combat it too, because like, all right, well, let me see how I deal with this type of person then. And then you start learning different things and you start watching it happen. It had to build confidence because you're like, well, never, okay, well, this is really working. Now you know how to address it. And then here comes the book, now you can say you're a published author. I wrote this book about narcissists. This is about my life, but at the same time, it helps other people because, stories are great for that reason, because the ability to connect with people is on such a broader scale now, even you being here now, someone's going to hear this and be like, man, I heard that episode CF. Holy shit. I don't know what to say, man. And it happens. I get emails every day from people that say, oh, listen, I listened to this episode. I appreciate what you're doing, and one of them that sticks out is a gentleman with a 12-year-old girl who unfortunately took her life 12 hours after they recorded this song. He's a music teacher and he teaches music. And he was using it as an outlet for these children to act like, okay, you got a lot of things going on. Well, come in here, let your rage out. It doesn't matter. You're going to fail either way writing a song. It happens. The whole point is just to get it out there and have fun with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're turning it on its head, and unfortunately in this scenario, the young lady, we lost her 12 hours after that and she was only 12 years old. And he had emailed me and said, hey, Pete, I appreciate what you're doing. I love the fact that you're addressing suicide awareness the way you were, because I did a whole series of videos for Suicide Awareness Month of just people I invited to share their stories. And I'm telling you right now, they were some of the wildest stories I have ever heard in my life. One of them was, in fact, a woman named Reshna Karni who had to tell her young kids that dad had killed himself. And she told them that. She wasn't lying to him, which a lot of people probably at home are going, oh, shit, really? And if anybody hasn't heard that one, go back and listen to it. It's really interesting. But she's not wrong, though. You can't lie to these kids about these things, because later on, the psychological effects of you lying to them is going to be even worse. They're going to live in that, they're going to be very upset, mad. All these emotions are going to flood over. But, it's just to say that it's hard. But, I love it, though. I love hearing stories like that where you're out here helping somebody with this book. And this book is a great manual for people to realize that, hey, listen, you don't have to deal with these situations. And if it is your situation, hey, listen, this is what you can do to try and solve the problem and start combating back. And, you giving people a fighting chance. It's awesome. Like, the fact that you took the time and you're sharing the story, it's hard for people to tell their own story, but it's amazing that you're here because you never know. Somebody's going to hear that story and be like, damn, you know what? I can relate to you.
Well, like when I know what I felt like, and honestly, even before I left, one of my children said, if you don't get out of this house, you're going to be in a nursing home before you know it.
Yeah.
I was so mentally low.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how mentally low I was till probably about 7 months after I was out. But yet through the whole process, I had to be very methodical about all my moves. I had to protect my kids, even though they're adults and families of their own. There's enough going on with them and enough game playing, and you have to learn how not to get sucked in.
Yeah.
You have to go no contact.
Mm-hmm. That's what
You
I do
know,
now.
so
So
it's email or text, and you've got everything documented because we had a farming business. We had a farming business, and I can remember when I sold some of my family land and put it in the bank. He's sitting at the table, maybe about a year after that, and he said, I took all your money out and I gave it to mom to pay for the quarter. And I said, don't you think you should have talked to me first? That was my family land. That
yeah.
was my family money. And he looked at me and he said, sucks to be you. That was a real education.
Yeah, with
You
my
know?
my situation with mine was I kept it separate, all my money separate for that reason. Because like, I learned from the first one, like, when I got in that situation, it was like my money together, but now I had it separate. I had control over my money that, I made sure the stuff went to where it was supposed to go. There wasn't none of that, "Oh, it sucks to be you." You had no access to anything I had, and luckily, I identified early on what it was because I came to her and told her something, and then she told me, and her response was just so cold. It was just like, I knew what the situation was then. It came to me instantly. I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is definitely what it is. It's definitely a narcissistic situation," because she had told me to basically just kill myself. And I was like, I told her this, I said, hey, I had a plan. I told you I pussed out, but whatever, at the end of the day, it was, I didn't succeed. That's what mattered. I'm still here, still doing this. But when I came to tell her about it, her cold response, it was the final nail in the coffin for me because I was already thinking of divorce already. I was already to that point, and it just got worse. It just was to the point when that head got set, I was like, that's it, I'm done. That was the final point. That's like, all right, cool, check mark, I'm done. And after that, I stopped giving her anything she wanted. I didn't give in to her, didn't give in to any of her shit. I didn't do anything she wanted because it was all a plan. Because I started realizing she was weaponizing everything and anything I said to her or anything I did. Any kind of comments I made, if I was having a frustrating day and I was doing something, got frustrated doing something, and I was just kind of getting agitated and I didn't think about what I was saying, she was instantly ready there to jump all over it like a blood, like a jackal, man, just all ready to get right in there and get on the thing. And I was just like, And I started realizing little by little what was going on. So I started minimizing like what I was doing and saying things, and we weren't even talking. We were even sleeping in the same room at one point, like we were hardly talking some days, and she got mad. And the one thing I did realize in therapy though is that she couldn't control this show, and that's what she didn't like. She didn't like I was meeting other people and talking to other people. And she's like, well, her excuse was, well, I don't like you meeting other random women. I'm like, yes, because I'm interviewing all these women to date them. Yes, because that's what I'm doing with this show. Like, exactly what topic I'm in, what I'm doing with this topic. And then the fact that it took off and I'm booked so far out, she just kept she just didn't get it. She's like, oh, you say you have a show today? I'm like, I've got people booked until, at the time I booked until February of last year. I was out till almost July. By the point we started having these conversations, she's like, "Oh, you have a show today?" I'm like, every Monday, 10 a.m., I have somebody coming in to come talk to me because I was a part of a podcasting network. So we were live when we were doing those episodes. And now I'm out to like February or March or something. I'm out to March now, I think. But I have like 4 to 5 people a day, Mondays and Tuesdays, because those are 2 days I usually bulk record everything. But, like she didn't like that because I was spending all my time doing that. And the fact that I kept saying that, I'm going to do this for myself. I don't care what you want. I want to do this. I enjoy this. It's great. I'm feeling it. I love it. It's healing because I'm talking my own problems. I'm helping other people. And at the same time, we're creating a conversation that needs to be had. Like there's a demand there. Obviously, if I've got people lined up to March, at least 3 to 4 people on Tuesdays, that are there, there's obviously a demand for this conversation. People like yourself that are writing these books, there's art right there creating the demand that it needs to be talked about more.
Yeah. I totally agree with you on everything, and it's one thing to be with a narcissistic partner and have a relationship, and you really don't realize how dysfunctional it
Mm-hmm.
is until you're out. And then all of a sudden you're dealing with the aftermath of narcissistic abuse. You're dealing with all your issues from being in a relationship like that. So I do have a chapter out in another book,
Oh, okay.
She Thrives, and it talks on the aftermath of narcissistic abuse. And it's just like, I've never had anxiety in my life. Now I'm dealing with anxiety, and it's all the little things, or the little triggers. Like I'll be at the skating rink, to watch the grandkids, and all of a sudden, boom, something comes over me, and I just want to cry and run and
Yeah.
leave the rink. And it's just like, no, I can't do that. My grandkids are going to be waiting for, so it's forcing me to deal with these issues head on. But I'm recognizing all these little issues,
Mm-hmm.
and I got it's another problem that you got to get down to the root of it and figure it out and learn how to manage to go
But
forward.
something a ding 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 real loud right when you said the word root. The root of it is exactly the exact thing. You could take off the surface all you want, cancer, whatever else you want to use, trees, but what's always remaining there? The root cause of what the issue is that was there that you have to work on. And then it's the putting the work in part is hard for people. They can't put the work in because it's tough. Nobody wants to reflect on the things they did and things like that. Like I could tell you it's hard. Like going back and looking at all the things I did wrong. Jesus. Once I tell everybody what they are, like people just look at you like, whoa. I'm like, yeah, because like they know me as Pete versus anxiety. They don't know what Pete was like before. I was a terrible person before. I'll be the first one to tell you all I was a horrible person. Do I admit that? Yeah. Would I admit that 10 years, 5 years ago? No. 2 years ago? No. A year before I started doing this show? No. Now I've had time to sit here and honestly think about it. I was like, it's time to make some changes instead of blaming everybody else for my own problems, and just like CF said, you had to get to the root cause of the issue is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, most definitely. One of the issues, I've been out of the marriage for just about 7 years, still in the court system. We're just about settled, but
Jeez.
I'm not backing down. And
No, don't.
I'm strong. I have learned so much and I have grown so much. And I think this book made me face everything
Yeah.
right down to the get-go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I feel it 100%. You can tell. You can tell you're strong and confident just by the energy you give off. It's another avenue I went down was energy healing and things. So I learned that I'm energy sensitive and the energy you give off is amazing. Like the minute I met you, it was great. I could just tell you it was great talking to you to that point. Even just you just said hello to each other already. I could tell this was going to be a great conversation. Not to mention this story. You're like, wow, the where we've gone, everywhere else, the whole ride you took us on with this. So I appreciate you coming and sharing the whole story because that's great. Like what you're doing is powerful. And then to the grandkids too are going to see this. Like, look at my grandma go. Look at how powerful she is. She's out here making a difference in the world. And especially any granddaughters you have too, because that's the other thing too, is that you're showing them that just because you're female doesn't mean you're going to let somebody put you down. Like you can be powerful too. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter. You can be a grandmother, be somebody's mom. You know what I mean? It's empowering these people to just let them know you don't have to make these excuses. There's ways to work on it. And it's not easy. Like, CF will tell you the same thing. You can tell she said it was hard. She couldn't run away when anxiety kicked in. She's like, I can't leave the grandkids. That's not fair to them. They didn't have anything to do with this. Now, do you have open conversations with your sons about your whole everything that you went through?
Like I have to say, he really progressed deeper into the narcissism
God.
after a couple of the kids were gone and moved away. But it was the one child that was at home with me and we were all farming together that he was treated the same way I was.
Yeah.
He saw a lot. For that, I feel for him, but it is what it is. All I can do is educate, and tell them what I've learned and how to manage. And I've had people that have read this book from the community and have commented that there's things that resonate with me in that book, just from what mom has told me or dad has told me sitting on boards with his parents.
Yeah.
So his dad was gone before we were married, but I know what his mom was like. His mom was very good at triangulation. She did that unreal with her kids, and it didn't take me long to figure out not to get excited because this is her game and this is what she does.
That's awesome, though. It's awesome that you could identify it, and and you're right. It is what it is. I mean, you really can't control what happened because you're not going to control your husband regardless. He was narcissistic. It was nothing you could have done for them. You could sit there and just admit that, hey, I should have left sooner, but what do you want me to do about it? You can't sit there and hold that. It can be held against you, and it's the same thing for him. So is your son that was there for that whole thing? Is he doing good nowadays?
He's fantastic.
See?
Actually, I feel that I'm very blessed with all of my children.
Awesome.
And I think where I am in the demographics, I believe that the woman is more of the caregiver, kind of manages and helps the kids out running them for activities and stuff. And I think honestly, that was probably the saving grace.
Yeah. That's
You know?
awesome. That's awesome. See, we're at the part of the interview where I'm going to ask you 2 questions, okay? So the first one's a fun question, all right? You ready for this one? If your mental health had a song, what would that song be?
Tina McBride, Broken Wing.
I like it. That's the worst entry from Martina McBride, by the way. I love it. Every time I get answers to this, it's just great because there's no wrong answer. It's like what does it feel? And some people are like, well, I don't know. I'm like, what's the first song that comes to mind? And then they shoot them off, and you're just like, that's awesome because you're thinking we had Led Zeppelin earlier from somebody earlier, so that's awesome. I love it. I absolutely love it. And see, if before we start wrapping up, I want to ask you one question. And the reason the whole thing I started this podcast, and I'd like to get everybody's opinion. If you could break this stigma about mental health. Now, when I ask this question, I ask everybody the same thing. I lay it to them like this. It's like, if there's something that you see in the world that you want people to stop believing, what would you say that would be?
If I wanted people in the world to what?
Stop believing something about mental health. Like you could use narcissistic relationships as your example. If there's something that you want people to believe they're in this situation, like, hey, there's hope for everybody, something like that, what would you say that would be?
You're worth it. Like, we're all worth it. And how we allow people to treat us is our fault. That's where our boundaries come up. If you drop your boundaries, then you're teaching them that it's okay to treat you that way. And it's okay. It's okay to walk away.
Yep. I love it. I absolutely love it. Because you said two things. You said boundaries, and you said it's okay to walk away. I think those are very important points, and I think that's great that you said that because setting boundaries is a big thing, and you're going to find that narcissistic other doesn't like that. You don't want boundaries. They don't want because they can't control you because you're not allowing them to go past those boundaries. And, and I would add on to that part of it and say, stand your ground. Don't let somebody ever make you feel like your boundaries are being selfish because you're not. You have a right to tell people how you want to be treated. And if they don't like it, tell them there's the door. Or CF could tell you too, because I feel like you come in her kitchen acting wrong. She can be like, hey, listen, you better find the damn door and get there quick.
They're so high right now that
I could just imagine it's like coming in her kitchen acting a fool. Like what'd you say? Hell no. She glanced at you. That's it. Done. You're out the door. Just a shadow image of you, then gone. So, see, with that being said, do you want to go ahead and let me know where they can find you? I know the book's out. Is it obviously everywhere you can find it, right?
Yes, cultivatingfreedom.ca.
Awesome. I love it.
I've got a website, and I have on there, if you subscribe, it'll give you all the latest podcast videos, and it links you right to my YouTube channel.
I love it. I absolutely love it, CF. Well, thank you so much for coming today. This was a great honor to have you. I love what you're doing. Like I said, I love the book. Guys, go check out the book. It's everywhere you can find your books at, too. Guys, let's see if you saw her in Pete vs. Anxiety. It'd be awesome. She'd love to hear it. And guys, with that being said, we're going to wrap up this episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. You know where to find me. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety. I'm an X all the way down to TikTok. I'm on Spotify all the way down to Pandora Radio. And as I always say, it costs nothing absolutely to be kind to somebody. One kind act you could do could save someone's life, or hell, you can make their day. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety, signing off today saying, hey, don't ask how your day is. Say, hey, how's your mental health today?